If a story's villain were the protagonist, then you'd probably be rooting for their victory over the heroes. I know, that's a wild claim. And to some, it may even be a controversial statement. And I don't necessarily intend to polarize the audience at the very start of this video, but take my characters, Wysteria, the main character, who, for our purposes, is the hero of the story, and Amahlee, who is seen as the villain of my story. In this case, and nearly every case I can think of, I don't categorize villain and antagonist as mutually exclusive terms. I truly believe that if the story were told from Amahlee's point of view, and we were put in her body when she experiences her heartbreak, or put in her mind when she displays her intentions, and locked in with her choices as she makes them, it would turn Amahlee from an intimidating villain to an extremely compelling and complex protagonist. Throughout the course of this video, I'm going to explain to you how Wysteria, or a protagonist, insert yours here, and Amahlee, insert your antagonist here, are so similar that only one thing really separates the two. And if you think it's because one is good and one is evil, you should probably stick around and find out why that is so very wrong. By the way, hey, my name is Tiara. Welcome back to my channel. Here I make YouTube videos that all relate back to my online graphic novel, The Lost Land Sage. But that's not something I will tell you about right now, or how you can read it through the links in the description. No, I will be saving that for the end of this video. Right now, we have more important things to talk about. Think of popular media like Jackie Brown, Undertale, and Mad Men. What is something these all have in common besides the fact that they're some of my favorite movies, games, and shows published to date? The protagonist isn't always the, quote, good guy, end quote. In my favorite worlds or pieces of fiction, the player character, most commonly known as the protagonist, is just the one whose thoughts we hear, feelings we experience, whose choices we're forced to live with, and whose narrative we're forced to sit with. In Jackie Brown, it's a wrong and wronged flight attendant doing what she must. In Undertale, depending on your playthrough of course, it's a young human in a land of monsters. And in Madman, it's an anguished adulterer making a name for himself. Occasionally, that person is deeply flawed. Sometimes the person is dangerous. Most of the time, they're screwed up in some significant way, and as a result, they don't make the best choices. We know that, but the character is still our one and only window into the story we are interested in, and the only way to find out what we want to know. The protagonist is the only catalyst that can connect us to the narrative, and as a result, that makes us care about them. We want Jackie Brown's plan to succeed, and the human in Undertale to make it out from the underground. We want Don Draper to just go to therapy already. Interesting segue back to the topic at hand, my online graphic novel, The Lost Land Sage. I want a quick note that creating a story that is interesting enough to keep the reader hooked can often excuse a morally crappy main character because you want to know what happens. It's why I love Mad Men and watch it regularly to this day, but I never finished Breaking Bad. Shortly into season 2, I DNF'd it. I love to hate Don Draper. And his perspective of the world in which his story takes place was interesting enough that I still wanted to watch the show to completion. However, Walter White's character was just a character that I hated, and the story was not interesting enough to make me care and excuse the human that was Walter White. There's a delicate balance between a terrible protagonist and an interesting story, and each reader's tolerance for that will be different. Wysteria is my main character in The Lost Land Sage. She's a grieving, curious, stubborn young witch, and her drive creates movement propelling the story's narrative forward. Movement, in this case, means actions that a character takes that, in turn, progresses the story's narrative. Without character movement, there is no story. Circling back to Amahlee, well, Amahlee is the exact same as far as characteristics and drive that creates movement goes. Both characters want to reshape fate in a way that will be more satisfying for them to live with. Wysteria and Amahlee both are fueled by love and desperation and share a connection to the Ever that is unique only to them. They both use their knowledge as real-world power, and it's fueled by curiosity. And if you ask both of them, what do you want? What are you willing to risk for what you want? When have you won? Their answers would mirror each other. Wysteria wants one last chance with someone she loves, and she wants it desperately. Her grandmother was the one person in life she felt truly understood her and loved her for exactly who she was. Unlike Pip, who has never felt that comforting kind of love, Wysteria had it in Grandma Willow. With her grandmother gone, and the hope and promise of reclaiming what now feels like an empty hole in her heart, Wysteria relentlessly pursues the Ever. Even if it turns out to be detrimental to her health and reputation, she doesn't care. It doesn't matter. She just has to see her grandmother again. Just one more time. Amahlee, she wants to save someone that she loves from a cruel fate. And she wants to do this desperately, as much as the air that she breathes. And as much as I would love to share with you readers more of the details of Amahlee's story, some things do have to remain a mystery, as The Lost Land Sage is still actively putting out new pages every other week, but trust me, bro. These are parallels and even intersecting lines. Okay, just trust me. Actually, I could even argue that Amahlee's motives are more selfless and righteous than Wysteria's, thus more fitting of a sympathetic protagonist. Amahlee is doing all that she is doing for someone else. Wysteria's motivations, though formed from love, are entirely selfish. In the case of Amahlee, that's the making of a hero, isn't it? I'm actually having a lot of fun with this video. This is actually my second time writing the script and recording the audio because I just wasn't really happy with the first draft that I was nearly done editing. But being able to inject my videos with the passion that I hold for visual storytelling through art and narrative is truly a dream realized. So, for anyone looking to support my creative endeavors, I am sponsoring this video, and I urge you to look at my Ko-Fi, which is linked in the description. I reward members with early access and art goodies, and I reward followers with free blog posts. I'll see you on Ko-Fi if you're interested. Otherwise, let's snuggle in the blanket and get back to the main video. A key part of creating a compelling character is establishing believable and relatable flaws. I talk more in depth about flaws and other layers of fixing flat characters in a video I'll leave linked in the cards. But assuming you understand how flaw works in character creation, Wysteria is a flawed individual, just like you, and just like me. Her major dragging weight is her incessant need to be correct, to be good, and to make the right choices. Her intelligence works as both her armor and her Achilles heel at the same time. Her constant pursuit of black and white leaves most of her choices light gray at best and dang near black at worst. Then there's Amahlee, who is obviously flawed as the antagonist and is encumbered with a trait that actually could be seen as good. Amahlee is loyal. Loyalty is a revered trait, so much so that it's helped dogs secure the spot of man's best friend. But Amahlee is too loyal, if you can believe it. Loyal to a memory and a promise that we haven't fully uncovered in the story yet. And still, despite these flaws, both characters carry like a badge of honor. Neither character is inherently evil. Of course, neither character is perfectly good either. Both characters are dangerous in their own ways. At the time of the story right now, the one thing, other than screen time, that makes Wysteria and Amahlee different is how far along each is on their ever journey. However, no matter how far along their trek is, the landscape alone poses for a dangerous result when explored ignorantly. If Amahlee were the camera's focus in The Lost Land Sage, Wysteria very well might be seen as the reckless young witch playing with forces she doesn't understand. The buddy to Amahlee's Mr. Incredible.
Are you curious about how I get around so fast? See, I have these rocket boots.
Go home, buddy.
But we're not in Amahlee's head. We're in Wysteria's. So why is Wysteria the protagonist? Wysteria is the protagonist because Wysteria is the character who the camera follows the most. Wysteria is the protagonist because I, the story's creator, chose her to be so. And that's the case with any protagonist. They are quite simply the character that the story follows the most, the one with the most screen time. I find the story from Wysteria's perspective the most compelling. Wysteria's entire journey is an exercise of exploring free will and contemplating the argument of nature versus nurture. Here is a character with a similar story to the perceived villain, enough so to kick off the story with the exciting incident of reaching the Ever, a place long thought to be a myth to most witches, a legend. Wysteria has all of the makings to become Amahlee to Electric Boogaloo, bigger, better, and more misguided. Amahlee, on the other hand, is a presence in the story that we feel but we don't necessarily see. At least for now. But make no mistake, her choices are setting the story into motion and keeping it moving just like Wysteria. So yes, my story focuses on characters, their choices, and how that can change results, can restore or rewrite history. Now, call me biased, but I think that's freaking interesting as heck. Protagonists and antagonists are two sides of the same coin. One is not better than the other, and neither can truly be captivating as a story on their own. Both sides of the coin are vital. A protagonist with no opposition feels flat, and an antagonist with no opposition becomes unstoppable and boring. In The Lost Land Sage, when it comes to the protagonist and antagonist, one is living in grief, and the other is weaponizing it. It's up to you to decide which role belongs to Amahlee and which belongs to Wysteria. Now, I want to give a fair warning. Wysteria is going to make some very questionable choices. I know that some of you really love her as a character, and I don't want to break your heart, but she's not always a good guy. She's, for lack of a better word to describe the experience, human. Despite being born of my own mind as a witch, human in the way that no one who walks this earth is perfect, except for Jesus, as far as I'm concerned. Meaning that we mess up, we do bad things, we make mistakes. Which to Wysteria, who has to always do the good thing, sounds like a horrendous existence. But when Wysteria does make those questionable choices that I brought up earlier, I don't want you to wonder, but why is she doing this? Actually, I think it would be more fun and more relevant to ask yourself, would I do the same? I always say that I can never truly judge the actions of another because I know that if I were born as that person and had their same life, I would do the same thing. In the case of you and me, we are painfully human in that unfortunate way. But that's also why I love the relationship between Wysteria and Amahlee so much. Wysteria could easily become Amahlee. Amahlee doesn't choose Wysteria on a whim. She knows that Wysteria could take her same exact path. Seeing how and if Wysteria does or doesn't follow in Amahlee's footsteps is what I think helps contribute to that very interesting story. And in regards to the character's motivations, being driven by intense emotion is also very human. And if Wysteria or Amahlee is being driven by strong emotion, then it's easy for you as a reader to see where you'd align with their actions or where you would differ with their choices. I think through the building narrative of the Lost Land Sage, Wysteria is standing on the line between hero and villain. The people she meets, relationships she forms, choices she will make will shape her hero-shaped glow or villain-shaped shadow. Amahlee might already be what Wysteria should fear becoming, or what she secretly hopes to become. I guess we'll see, won't we? So if you're still watching at this point of the video, I'm curious. Are you a Wysteria, seeking answers and comfort no matter the difficulty it poses? Or are you an Amahlee, choosing love and loyalty over maybe morally correct actions? Do you root for the hero or the villain who could have been a hero when you consume creative media? Better yet, do you love when you can't tell the difference between who was really the hero and who lived long enough to die a villain? I know what my answers are. Maybe, as you read my online graphic novel, The Lost Land Sage, those answers will become more obvious to you. You can read 2 new pages every other Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Comic Fury, which is linked in the description. So go find out. Next week is when 2 new pages will be released. Or you could read 2 pages today and every single Sunday on Webtoon, also at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, also linked below. BT dubs, Webtoon is behind Comic Fury, so I warn you for spoilers if you are a Webtoon exclusive reader. To see me here on YouTube again in 2 weeks when I post a new video, I highly recommend subscribing. Also, if you want to, you can like, share, and comment on my video so that you will be letting the YouTube robots, that really cool people like you, like really cool videos like mine. Maybe we can hit my 200 subscriber goal soon. Anyway, all that I have left to say is to stay curious and suffer the consequences. I'll see you next time. Bye!